Right now on the National Weather Desk, the search for survivors. As the death toll rises in Turkey's earthquake, we take a closer look at these powerful seismic events. A look back at the blizzard of '78, 45 years after it paralyzed portions of New England.
There are 2 feet of snow on the ground. As you can see, it's drifting 6 to 8 feet. And as you can see, it is still snowing.
A rare bird native to Russia and Asia makes another surprise appearance in Maine.
Because it's the only bird on the continent like it. And it's so huge.
What you need to know about temperature and wind to make your golf ball fly farther.
To make better informed decisions as to what club to hit and how to play a particular shot.
Plus dramatic video of a giant wave capsizing a boat. So why was the man the Coast Guard rescued later arrested?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. A massive 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked parts of Syria and Turkey early Monday. Over 5,000 people, sadly, are dead, with at least 21,000 injured. The World Health Organization says up to 23 million people could be affected. The devastating quake is one of the largest to strike the area in the past century. Meteorologist Alan Sills explains that this quake was much stronger than most.
In Turkey, dozens of earthquakes. The strongest one in the last 24 hours, 7.8 magnitude. And notice how it's just a long area across the United States in the last 24 hours. There have been 3 earthquakes that have been magnitude 3.0 or greater. But what you really need to know is earthquakes are very, very common. If you look at all the earthquakes in the last 24 hours in the U.S., you notice more than a dozen in California, 1 in western New York, you see 1 in Texas. Those are weak earthquakes. And if you go back 5 days, truly dozens and dozens of earthquakes across the United States. So that by itself is not unusual. However, what happened in Turkey in the last 24 hours is a very powerful earthquake. And when you look at the magnitude scale going from 0 to 10, each time you go from, say, 1 to the next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the actual impact, the power of the earthquake is multiplied many more times. So this is truly an exponential impact when you look at earthquakes. Something like a 7.8, it's one of the strongest that you will find versus something that's like a 2.0 or less, which is an earthquake that's pretty common. I'm meteorologist Alan Sills.
And one of the earthquakes that Alan actually mentioned took place yesterday in Buffalo, New York, and it's one of the largest ones recorded there in 40 years. The 3.8 magnitude quake was reported outside the city a little after 6 a.m. Monday. The United States Geological Survey says it originated near West Seneca. Western New York's largest was a 4.7 quake. Now that was back in 1929. And now to all that snow that buried Buffalo this winter. Remember the pictures. We're learning surprisingly a lot of the snow that fell actually fell before winter officially began. Meteorologist Scott Hesko explains.
Looking back at the blizzard of 2022 that ended the year in Buffalo, New York, who could forget the scenes nationwide as they had their eyes focused on the Queen City of Buffalo? I mean, an incredible amount of snow fell at the end of the year. And it wasn't just in December. It also happened earlier in November. Have a look at how much snow fell in Buffalo at the airport. 101.3 inches of snow November and December in the city of Buffalo. Since that time, since the start of 2023, only 15 measly inches has fallen since then. Incredible flip-flop of winter here in Western New York. I'm meteorologist Scott Hesko for the National Weather Desk.
And this morning in Austin, Texas is coming back, rebounding after last week's devastating ice storm. Power is actually being restored to so many homes there, but residents say some other problems remain. Fred Cantu spoke to some who say other needs must be met before things can really start feeling back to normal.
Austin's electric utility finds itself struggling to explain to the public just how unprecedented last week's ice storm was for Central Texas.
This was a natural disaster. The chairman of the Public Utility Commission of Texas has likened it to an ice hurricane.
Meanwhile, the responsibility of home ownership is getting all too familiar for families in one Round Rock neighborhood. Last March, they were cleaning up after a tornado. Now they're cleaning up after icy weather. But Robert Scott isn't picking up his own yard.
Yeah, just helping my neighbor out. I went and had some in mine, and it's not enough to go and have the city go and come out to pick up. So I just picking it up and taking it over to the recycle place.
Right now, Round Rock has 2 sites for storm debris, and both are being kept busy. And in Austin, the city's Hornsby Bend site is handling many times its normal intake.
We had received 758 drop-offs for 557 tons of yard trimmings. In a normal month, we receive about 1,000 drop-offs.
The progress in the storm recovery efforts means things are starting to look more like normal for a lot of Central Texans. But some of those customers who now have their lights back on want to see one more thing happen.
I'm ready for my internet to be back on. I work online on Zoom, and so I've been unable to do anything since the internet went out. So I'm eager to have it back on so I can get back to work.
Well, this week marks 45 years since the blizzard of '78 struck New England and the mid-Atlantic. It's still the biggest storm in Rhode Island history, with more than 3 feet falling in some places. Our station in Providence, Rhode Island, produced a documentary on the storm in the days following the storm. Now, here are just a few clips.
Even to the most casual observer, it is obvious that these vehicles can't be moved until the streets are plowed, and the streets can't be plowed until the vehicles are moved.
There are still probably 1,000 people in their cars on the highways, and they have been there since 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon.
Dire emergency here in the state of Rhode Island, and using every single resource that we have to try to get the state out of this terrible storm.
Several people in the city who own snowmobiles have offered their services, delivering food, medication, and doctors to people in need. The police say without them, they couldn't move.
East Providence, over through the Washington Bridge, over that way, that's still tangled up. Route 146 and the going up into the Woonsocket area, that's pretty well tangled. There's about 100 tractor-trailer trucks down in the southern part of 95. Hope Valley has got a serious problem with trucks tied up down there. The connector road into the airport has got some problems.
And there was a great response. People shared their homes with strangers for days. Hundreds of volunteers of all ages just appeared at police stations and hospitals.
The Steller sea eagle is a bird native to Northeast Asia, but for the last 2 winters, one bird has mysteriously appeared on the coast of Maine, and people flock from across New England to catch a glimpse. Mel Meyer is in Georgetown, less than an hour northeast of Portland, with details.
I just was never in the right place at the right time.
Tom Stocker lives in Arousek. When the Steller sea eagle landed just down the road in 2021, he never got a chance to see it.
Been hopeful that it would come back this way, and sure enough, it has.
Someone spotted the feathered creature again just down the river on Saturday. Ever since, crowds have gathered on the bridge over the Back River trying to catch a glimpse.
You know, it's actually at one of the exact same spots it was seen in last year, which is just amazing in of itself.
The Steller sea eagle can be found in far eastern Russia, sometimes migrates to Japan or Korea in the winter. Experts believe this one was first seen in late August 2020 in Alaska, and birdwatchers have tracked it to Texas, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and beyond. It's the heaviest known eagle with up to an 8-foot wingspan. There's white on the leading edge on the wing with a big, bright yellow beak. What's it like to actually see it in person?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, you know, because you've been following something, you've been hearing about it, and there's the actual bird.
If the rare birds visit is anything like last time, it could be here until early March. But experts say you don't want to wait. Near Georgetown, Maine, I'm Mel Meyer.
A dramatic Coast Guard rescue on Friday. A boat operator got caught in rough seas off the coast of Oregon and flipped over. You can see it right there, tossing the boat operator right into the water. A Coast Guard swimmer rescued the person, and both were hoisted onto the helicopter. The boat operator did have some minor injuries. However, at the hospital, local authorities told the Coast Guard the person they rescued may have actually stolen that boat. The allegation is under investigation, of course. Turns out that was the rescue swimmer's very first save. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, sturgeon season is getting underway in Wisconsin, but the unusually warm winter might make things harder for fishermen. We will explain, and we'll talk with an expert about how weather impacts your golf game.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We're starting the teens and 20s this morning, so a cool start to the day. The trend is going to be for increasing clouds. That right there is a weak front that moves through during the overnight hours tonight into very early Wednesday morning. That's 10 o'clock or 10:30 tonight. A round of snow and rain moves in. Areas that see snow, you could get a coating to an inch. It's gone by Wednesday, though. 7 a.m., we're out of the gates with clearing skies. It's a little breezy on Wednesday with highs in the 30s and 40s.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Starting off with a bit of a chill, then partly cloudy skies and warming temperatures into the afternoon. Lots of 50s appearing, some 60s way out west on the western side of the Appalachians, and eventually that becoming a part of our forecast as we head into the middle and end of the week as warmer air moves in ahead of our next weather maker, which is a cold front. That's going to take until the end of the week and early weekend to move through. That's seen here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecasted highs for the day. Looking at 68 degrees, a comfortable day in Atlanta, 63 Raleigh, comfortable down in Mobile at 73 degrees, 82 in Tampa, 75 West Palm. Looking at mainly clear conditions for the southeast as we continue to see high pressure in control. Next weather maker is this frontal boundary coming up out of Texas, firing off some maybe gusty storms as we get in through Tuesday overnight and then in through Wednesday, Thursday, stormy conditions.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Welcome back, everyone. We know that weather affects sports like football and baseball, but what about golf? The weather could impact how far a golf ball travels. So a golf pro in Savannah has come up with temperature and wind formulas to determine what the difference actually is. Emily Gracie spoke to Andrew Rice about them.
All of the information I'm going to share with you is very much what I term to be a rule of thumb. Emily, okay, it's not going to be exactly perfect, but it really is good enough for the vast majority of golfers out there to make better informed decisions as to what club to hit and how to play a particular shot. So temperature, for every 10 degrees that we go above, let's call it 75. So if we're playing at 85, every club in your bag is going to carry 2 yards longer. But let's say we're playing at 45 degrees, that's 30 less. That's 3 times 2, which is each club is going to be 6 yards shorter based on the temperature.
We talk about really windy golf courses and how just somebody's game is going to change completely. Can you tell me how it's changed? What have you learned in that aspect?
For wind, I would say I'm currently on my 5th formula. As I try to whittle it down, and I try to make each one better than the last. A wind is almost never constant. It's ever changing. And that refers to the velocity of the wind, and the point that it's coming from is always varying. That variation can increase your dispersion by up to 30%. 5, 10, 15, or 20. If you've got that mph of wind blowing directly in your face, regardless of the club you're hitting, that is going to be the yards difference that your ball will travel. You've got an 8-iron into a 20 mph wind straight at you, add 20 yards. If you've got a 5 mph wind blowing in your face and you're hitting a driver, your ball is going to go 5 yards less than before.
And head over to YouTube for a longer version of this interview. Andrew talks about tailwinds and humidity. We've also put links to his formulas in the description, just in case you couldn't catch all of those numbers. Just search the National Weather Desk on YouTube or scan the QR code on the bottom left corner of your screen. Well, this past weekend saw some dangerously cold temperatures in the Northeast. The Mount Washington Observatory in New Hampshire set a new record with a wind chill of negative 108 degrees. But what is wind chill and how does it shape the way we feel the weather? Meteorologist Ryan Mirando explains.
To explain really what wind chills are, let me take you out to just a normal day. Our body heat radiates out evenly to the surrounding environment. Even on a chilly day, let's say the temperature outside is about 20 degrees with no wind factor. That's exactly how our body is feeling outside, sitting at around 20 degrees as well. However, let's throw in a strong wind. Winds maybe about 20 miles per hour or so. This pushes out that radiative heat around us and pushes it farther out, allowing our body to cool off much quicker than usual. So instead of the air temperature still sitting at around 20 degrees, it makes our body feel much colder. That's our wind chill. Feels like temperature of only 4 degrees. That's 16 degrees below what the air temperature would be. And that's why the wind chills are so important. Let me take you up though to the highest peak in the Northeast, Mount Washington. They saw some extreme cold. At the lowest, their temperature was sitting at 32 degrees below zero. However, high up there in the elevation, the winds were gusting upwards to about 115 miles per hour. That's equal to a Category 3 major hurricane. And when you combine those incredibly strong wind gusts and the freezing air temperature, that made for the coldest wind chill ever recorded throughout the entire U.S., including Alaska, a wind chill of negative 108 degrees. In that cold, it would only take 60 seconds for frostbite to take over your body.
Ooh, in parts of the Northwest last year, wind had a completely different impact, helping wildfires spread. Washington state saw a record number of wildfires that contributed to some of the worst air quality in the world. And now lawmakers are trying to make sure the problem does not happen again. Karina Vargas has more.
The Bolt Creek fire burned more than 14,000 acres last year, and its intensity was a big contributor to making Seattle's air quality the worst in the world. Battalion Chief Merritt with Eastside Fire and Rescue says they are already starting to gear up for the season ahead.
We've seen an uptick, longer duration fires, more intense. We've had significant drying in the fuels, and that's affected us.
For Chief Merritt, aircrafts are an important tool to battling wildfires, and if approved, House Bill 1498 would bring in more funding so planes and helicopters can be used more often.
This tool is for our local fire districts that will assure that they have the financial ability to deploy aircraft as deemed necessary.
Some landowners share their concerns in the most recent House committee hearing. For them, timing is crucial.
Air support was deployed for initial attack in some areas as is spelled out in this bill. It would be a game changer, and I would suspect would reduce the number of fires that go state mobilization.
A different bill introduced by the Department of Natural Resources asks for nearly $13 million over the next 2 years to prepare communities, including a statewide smoke monitoring team. Chief Merritt says that impacts the way they communicate with the public and advise their crews on the ground.
These fires do get large, and bringing in air quality monitoring, helping to advise the community what is safe and what's not safe. And then also it affects the crews that are out there working because they're working day in and day out.
Well, some call it sturgeon fever, and it's heating up in Wisconsin right now. Sturgeon, of course, is a species of fish, and Wisconsin is getting ready for spearing season. But for spear fishers, there's something slightly worrisome about the water that is under all that ice. Eric Peterson has the story.
At more than 132,000 acres, Lake Winnebago and the surrounding Upriver Lakes system is home to about 40,000 adult sturgeon. DNR sturgeon biologist Margaret Stadig says the population is healthy. She says the 2022 spearing season had an above-average harvest and produced some memorable giant prehistoric fish. But heading into the weekend, questions about water clarity below are causing concerns.
And a lot of them are saying it is a little bit variable. On the east side, I'm hearing really, really good water clarity. On the west side, not as much.
Lake Winnebago is relatively shallow, about 20 feet at its deepest point.
The general rule of thumb is about 12 feet. So yeah, you can't hit what you can't see, that kind of thing. So the better the clarity, the better the odds are when there is a sturgeon there, you're going to get to spear it.
And that's not all. Stadig says relatively poor ice conditions kept DNR staff off the lake until Monday. She says crews plan to check water clarity at 10 to 12 different locations.
Enough to at least hopefully give you a good picture of what's going on around the lake.
She says results are expected to be released Tuesday or Wednesday. In the meantime, people continue to head onto the frozen surface, possibly to scout sturgeon spearing locations.
It might mean another slow year. It might mean most of our harvest is coming from the east side of the lake. It really will depend.
And as we head to break, we fly over High Knob, Virginia.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest. A lot of sunshine across the plains for the day today. Got some rain moving its way into the Ohio Valley and a little lake effect snow up in northern Michigan. For the day tomorrow, we have more rain moving its way back in across the southern part of the Mississippi Valley there, and that'll continue working its way up towards the Ohio Valley with snow showers from Iowa up into Minnesota and Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Things are starting out pretty warm and humid down toward the south. A little bit of some rain. Cool in Amarillo at about 33 all during the day today. We'll watch a cold front pushing down toward the east and southeast. That'll fire up rain from Oklahoma down into Dallas, over into Houston, where we could see some severe storms. That's a potential. Later in the afternoon, temperatures warm up all the way from the 70s to the 50s and 40s up to the north. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and a good Tuesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. In mid to early February, we do start to warm up in the west coast, and that's starting to become evident of late. You can see temperatures slowly coming up, especially in San Diego and Phoenix, back to 70 apiece today and closer to 50, even with a big storm coming in to Seattle and Portland. In fact, that is our big weather maker. Look at this Pacific Northwest front, rainy and windy in the lowlands and heavy snow over the Cascades. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A fabulous southeast Texas sunrise to begin this week. A sunshiny start after their last damp and dreary one. Meanwhile, in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, meteorologist Ed Piotrowski says waiting most of Sunday night into early Monday for snowfall did not disappoint. And from idyllic towns to majestic vistas, a dusting of snow is seen from High Knob, Virginia during the weekend.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Reno, Nevada has had record-breaking precipitation and snowfall this season. It's also the coldest winter in Reno in 15 years. Here's Chris Smolcom with the National Weather Service.
We're at the coldest since about 2008, the coldest winter here in Reno since 2008, based on the temperatures. And a lot of that started with that cold front we had in late October, because October is really warm, and then boom, we had this big cold front. And ever since then, it's actually been a lot colder than normal.
Reno had more than 8 inches of precipitation and nearly 26 inches of snow. However, the numbers are a little higher because they do not include what fell this past weekend. And we'd love to share your weather content on air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms or just scan the QR code on the bottom left of your screen to connect with us. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, Utah has seen some record-setting snow this winter season. It's having some really unexpected impacts. We'll show you what they are. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.